Good afternoon. My name is Oreen Chowdhury, and I am the Vice Chair of the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll and verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley.
Present.
Rainville.
Present.
Vitak.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Osman.
Present.
Cashman. Present. Jenkins.
Present.
Chigtai is absent. Koski is absent. Palmisano is absent. Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Present.
Chair Chavez.
Present.
There are 9 members present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum. I will also note that Councilmember Ellison is absent, responding to constituent needs as there was an ice presence at Lake in Bloomington. So our thoughts are with our community right now. First, we will begin with the consent agenda. The only item on the consent agenda is a passage of a resolution authorizing a temporary construction easement for the Nicollet Bridge over Minnehaha Creek. Staff informed us that this item was not ready for last week's climate and infrastructure meeting, so it is before us now. Staff is also here to answer any questions. So colleagues, is there any discussion or questions for staff? Okay. Seeing no questions or discussion, is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. On the motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And I will also recognize that Councilmember Palmisano has joined the meeting. Next, we will have a brief presentation about the additional 2025 Minneapolis contracts being authorized. I will now welcome up Deputy Director Leah Lakes from Neighborhood Safety from a short presentation. Thank you. Welcome, Director.
Thank you.
Chair Chavez, Vice Chair Chowdhury, council members, thank you for having me up today. My name is Leah Lakes. I'm the Deputy Director of Neighborhood Safety. Welcome to this very brief presentation. This is about approving our ability to sign contracts for 3 additional zones for coverage for Minneapolis violence interruption services. These services, as a reminder, are those boots on the ground members of our community who we contract with to change behaviors and reduce retaliation cycles through engagement and preventing violence before it occurs. This approach is guided by the technical guidance of Cure Violence Global, and the geographic areas are identified based off of data from Cure Violence Global and input from community. Brief reminder, the Cure Violence model is one that is a scientific approach that treats violence like a disease, where we can interrupt the spread of that disease through interrupting conflicts, changing behavior, and changing norms. The areas that are identified that need interruption services through the Minneapolis contracts are identified here on this map. The incident table you see to the right is the number of incidents by zone. And previously, this council approved contracts for zones 2, 6, and 9 for a mother, or for, previously the council approved contracts for zones 1, 4, 7, and 8 for the Mother's Love organization, for Restoration Inc. organization, for Sabathani organization, and also for Touch Outreach. Today, we're asking for approval to sign contracts for zones 2, 6, and 9 for A Mother's Love, Touch Outreach, and Metro Youth Diversion, respectively. This is a map of Zone 9, where the coverage would include the Cedar Riverside area. This is the map of areas 1, 2, 4, and 3, where 1 and 2 are covered by A Mother's Love, and Zone 4 is covered by Restoration Inc. The other zones here, 5, 6, 8, and 7, are shown, as well as the incident numbers for each of these zones. Here you can see Touch Outreach for 6, Touch Outreach for 8, and then Sabathani for Zone 7. And this map just outlines which wards have violence interruption coverage zones. You see here, Ward 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9 are the wards that include pieces of the zones. That's my presentation. I stand ready for questions.
Thank you, Director Lakes. I will recognize Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Deputy Director Lakes. I appreciate I appreciate the presentation. And I'm assuming then that all the requirements for the contract have been fulfilled, the testing and the background checks and so forth. So that delay has been addressed.
Councilmember Rainville, we are in progress with all of those. They are almost all done, yes.
Okay. So you feel comfortable with us letting this contract out even though that work hasn't been complete?
Councilmember Rainville, I do. We do have one group that's out on the ground already. Group number Zone 4 for Restoration Inc. has been signed and they're active, and the other contracts are very close behind.
Great, thank you.
Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Deputy Director. I'm very concerned about Zone 5, as you know, which is the part that does cover 19th and Nicollet, which is an area in Ward 7 and Ward 6 that has undergone a lot of gun violence, among other group violence activities for many, many years. We've had many conversations with community. Lots of expectations have been set about this service coming to Ward 5, including the presence of multiple violence interrupter groups at a safety town hall that we hosted. And then followed by that was a contract with Mad Dads to cover this area that we passed, which then went out to thousands of community members, setting the expectation that this service would now be provided to our community. So I'm incredibly disappointed by this news and the timeline of this service being put off and a contract being approved that's now not going to actually be delivered. And I would like to know what the plan and timeline is for getting coverage in Area 5.
Councilmember Cashman, that is an excellent question. I'll have to respond in a written response to that.
Can you give me an indication of whether an offer was made for any of these other groups to cover Area 5?
Councilmember Cashman, I'm going to look to our attorneys to see if that's a question I can address.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
So the first group that was, selected to cover Area 5 was Mad Dads, who then declined the contract. And I'm wondering if any of the other groups were offered to cover Area 5.
Madam City Attorney, do you have a response?
I don't think that you can disclose that information.
So do you have a
Publicly.
plan for finding a new group to cover Area 5?
Councilmember Cashman, I need to get back to you with the plan for that.
Okay. When can I expect that information?
Councilmember Cashman, I can get back to you on a timeline as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will note that for administrative follow-up for our clerks. Do you have any other questions, Councilmember Cashman? All right, I will recognize Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. I actually wanted to name some thanks around, I see this as a response to the action that council took up about a month ago, where we passed a resolicitation motion for, I believe this is Area 2, now that A Mother's Love will be covering, and then also in response to extending or preserving coverage in Cedar Riverside, which is now number 9, and moving funding to do so. So I will say, thank you to Neighborhood Safety for moving at, reasonable speed to be responsive to those requests and making sure that gaps in service weren't being, perpetuated in parts of our city that these type of services are desperately needed. So thank you for that. I will echo similar concerns, though, in terms of we're now in June, and I know earlier this year when I brought forward the motion around moving services over to the county, we were given a hard kind of deadline to this body of these services would be up and running by April 1st. And this would actually, or that action would have led to a disruption. But now it seems those services outside of Restoration Inc. for Zone 4 has not went out into the streets. So I know you mentioned, or Councilmember Rainville asked a question around background checks, those things that might be acting as barriers. I'm just wanting to know, when can we expect, and I know Director Harrington named in her most recent update that negotiations are still happening. So for how long do we foresee this taking place? Because again, it's June. We already know what happens in warmer months. We're already seeing that play out. And we don't want to be in the same situation last year where we had an absence of these services and then immediately saw Minneapolis become a city that has some of the highest homicide rates in the country. So it feels concerning around what's going on in terms of negotiations, and now being almost 2 months out from that April 1st intended deadline. So I'm interested, where are we actually at in this process? You said they're near completion. Does that mean the original 4 groups are ready to sign, they're ready to be out on the streets? Like, can residents expect to see these services actually before August, even at this rate?
Councilmember Wansley, thank you for that question. The goal is to sign these contracts as quickly as possible. NSD's top priority is the services here that you're seeing before you and getting those out the door so they are helping the community members. So that is our highest priority item, to get those signed and those services out the door.
And just follow-up clarification, because from our understanding last time, when it was at least mine, by the time a contract reaches this body for approval, the assumption was then negotiations were finalized, groups were ready to be out on the streets again by that April 1st deadline. And then we were told, actually, again, negotiations are still happening. So will these groups that you just named, even for today, between Mother's Love, Metro Youth, Diversion Center, are they ready? Are those contracts actually done? Or is there space, and even Touch Outreach, which is still in negotiations for other coverages? Will these services actually be out and ready by the intended deadline of July 1st?
Councilmember Wansley, that is the goal. Everything that we're doing within our control is to reach that goal.
Okay, so there still could be a process, even if this body approved this contract, that negotiations could happen and maybe the July 1st deadline might not be reached if negotiations still run long.
Councilmember Wansley, let me respond to you in a written response for the timeline.
Just for the clarity of, again, it's by approving these contracts today, are we not replicating the same situation where these vendors will actually be ready? There's no need for additional negotiations. Contracts have been vetted. All parties involved are completely understanding of the terms and expectations of the deliverables expected from these contracts and are ready to then administer services? Or are we still at a process where we could be in further negotiations before those services are rendered? So that's the question then to have staff follow up to.
We'll add that to the administrative follow-up.
Thank you.
Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury, and thank you, Deputy Director. I have some questions about the group. So the Zone 2 is a part of Ward 4. The group that is already out, Restoration Inc., they're in Ward 4 too. What part of Ward 4 is Zone 2, and what are the Zone 2 group, what are they going to do versus where this zone is?
Councilmember Vita, good question. I pulled up the map of the different zones so you can see kind of the borders where Restoration Inc. will be providing services versus where A Mother's Love will be providing services.
Okay, so they just kind of cut off at the park, the new group, and then the other group just kind of picks up from there. Okay. Okay, so when you revamped, you talked about the groups being able to have so many staff per contract. Does this mean the groups who have 2 zones get to have double the amount of staffing and double the, all of the things we've talked about in previous presentations?
Councilmember Vita, that's correct. They're 2 different contracts.
Okay.
So the one group, A Mother's Love, would have 2 contracts, one for Zone 1 and one for Zone 2.
Okay, and then what about the what is happening? I've heard back from these groups that it's insurance that they can't cover is why they haven't haven't signed these contracts. It's the number of staff, and I've heard insurance in multiple ways. Medical insurance that is going to be required for the staff that they're hiring. I've heard insurance coverage for them to be out on the streets patrolling, that sort of insurance. I've heard that the contracts just aren't adding up to the requirements of what they need to have overall as a nonprofit organization to get the amount of people out on the streets. It's not adding up. What are we doing? I see the number before us, but I'm worried that the number is going to change sooner than we think, and that's fine if that's how we get people out. But are we really looking through that and spending the time on, helping these people to get folks out at a rate where they pay their staff good money, a good cost of living, those things, what is actually happening that we have one group that's out there, they're there, but these other groups aren't?
Councilmember Vita, that's a wonderful question. NSD is spending a lot of time having one-on-one conversations, group conversations, conversations with the directors and the groups, conversations with the program managers and the groups, conversations with our finance director and the groups, conversations with compliance and the groups. We are going so far as to contact the companies for the insurance to try to see if there's a 3-way help that we can do for some of these groups. NSD is very dedicated to setting our people that we contract with up for success and making sure that they can meet those requirements. And so we are spending a lot of time making sure that we are doing all of what we can to help them.
I appreciate that, but I'm just wondering if we've been spending 2 months and it's simply the contracts just aren't enough. We're not paying them enough. I feel like what I'm hearing from them is we're not paying enough for them to cover the expenses. And that's why they can't, it's not like they can't get the insurance coverage. They can't afford the insurance coverage with the amount that we're paying them.
Councilmember Vita, let me follow up with a budget table for you so you can see that breakdown that we did that shows all of the work that we did to calculate the amount of money for the contract. So let me follow up with that.
And my last thing is, are we providing the proper technical assistance for these groups? Because if we have a group that has done it, maybe this is the person we should be contracting with to help these groups get this done. If we have a group that's got the contract signed, they're out on the street, they're working, maybe we should do some mentoring or, like work with the group who's successfully done it to help those other groups get this done and not have neighborhood safety spending so much time on, like that. I appreciate what you said. You all are walking through with people but maybe you're not the right people to do this. Maybe the person who's successfully done this is the person to do it. And we should maybe consider providing technical assistance through the group that has successfully done it.
Thank you, and I will note for administrative follow-up for everyone, I think it would be helpful to get that budget table included in that memo. I have myself in queue next, and before I speak, I will recognize that Council Vice President Chugtai has joined us in this meeting. I want to just ensure that my understanding is correct. The contracts 1, 4, 7, 8, those were set with the date of April 1st for them to be executed. Is it executed to the point of like they would then start beginning the work or taking the funding and implementing the work?
Councilmember or Vice Chair, thank you. Chowdhury, that is the goal. The goal was April 1st to have all of this done due to a lot of different things. The group that is out right now and has everything signed is Restoration Inc. But yes, April 1st was the goal date, as that was the date that the old contracts expired.
Okay, and so Mother's Love in Zone 1, and then Sabathani in Zone 7, and Touch Outreach in Zone 8 have not begun the work. What point are they at with the contract? Is it that they haven't signed the contract, or they have signed the contract and now it's just like beginning the work of implementation? What's the barrier there?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, let me write a response because they're each at different places. So let me get back to you with a written response.
Okay, we'll note that for administrative follow-up. Could you share anything in terms of like a common theme in terms of barriers for contract execution for these organizations? I think Councilmember Vita aptly noted maybe a lack of technical assistance. What are you hearing from organizations? Is there a theme there?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, that's a good question. I would say I think a lot of the themes are that the vendors want to do a really good job. Like they are very dedicated and they want to do good work, and they want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and set up for that success together. So I think there's just been change management. There's been talk about flexibility with the different aspects. There's been things with training, with scheduling. So I would say it's kind of a wide variety of different issues.
Training, scheduling, wide variety of different issues. I'll also note that question just for administrative follow-up. Thank you to our clerks for noting all of this. This might have been asked, but have the other organizations indicated, the ones that got the prior contracts, indicated a timeline in which they would be able to start, or is there a goal timeline for neighborhood safety department? You have July for the ones that we are taking up today. What would be the ones for the previous allocation that we did now that the April 1st date has passed?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, the goal is always as soon as possible. So I guess that's the answer, as soon as possible.
Okay. So neighborhood safety department hasn't set a date to reach. I totally get as soon as possible, but there's a lot of things we like to do as soon as possible, but you have to set a deadline for yourself. Is that not something that has been decided internally yet?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, the priority list for NSD has this as the top priority. So we have a prioritization of what to focus our energies on and what to focus our time on, and this is our top priority. The deadline is hard to set in a way that is reasonable because every organization is a little bit different. So setting a timeline may not be helpful for some, and it may be helpful for others. So we currently don't have timelines or deadlines set up where we would say you don't get a contract if you don't sign by this date. That's not an approach we're taking.
Okay, well, I encourage Office of Community Safety to set an internal timeline for your own organizational goals to reach. I think that would be helpful. My last question before I pass it on is, once the contracts are signed and then everyone is on the ground, what is the plan for evaluation, performance evaluation?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, the plan for evaluation is for the program manager and the business analyst to work together with our technical advisor. The technical advisor, Cure Violence Global, stores the information and has the software that the community service providers use to input the data. So that group of 3 people are working together to make sure that all of the data is entered correctly and that we are getting the information we need to respond accordingly.
Okay, and then will that be presented before this body? And is there a certain point in the contract period where there'll be an evaluation? Is it like at halfway through the contract's life? Is it at the end of contract?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, the evaluation period will be happening immediately as data gets entered, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page and any corrections that need to happen with the training of how to enter the data are happening right away. Then there will be continuous evaluation to make sure that everything is looking good, and we are happy to present at any time to council after the data starts coming in.
Okay, yeah. Have you made any determinations on the frequency in which you want to report back to the Committee of the Whole?
Vice Chair Chowdhury, that is something that we can do at any speed as the data is mostly live, so we can have a report ready at the convenience of the council, that the council would like it to be sent to them at.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm gonna call on Councilmember Osman.
Excuse me, Madam Vice Chair, can you repeat your 2 questions that needed the staff follow-up?
I think we might just need to go back and look at what was recorded, because I can't remember exactly which questions were the ones that I specifically noted for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to have my staff send that directly to you. Great. Councilmember Osman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you so much for, first of all, coming to the Cedar Riverside community, not just one, but a couple of times to explain the process. I think that the reason we're doing all of this is to keep the community safe. And this is very time-sensitive program. During the summertime, those are when we need the programs. I just don't understand, why did the negotiation started so late with your department?
Thank you, Councilmember Osman. I don't know if it started late. We did have a process where we had to select what vendors we wanted to start negotiation with, and so we've been having negotiations for quite a long time. So I guess I'm not sure a good answer to that question.
Okay. Yeah, same way, Councilmember Vita, I spoke to some of the organizations that was mentioned here. They were ready from day one to really get to work. And the start date was pushed from April to July. And that's just not fair to our residents. We expect Department of Safety to really step it up and get this done. I know there's a lot of legal stuff. There's a lot of stuff that people have to go through it, but being prepared is really the way to finish. There are and I don't think this is finger-pointing organizations. There's wonderful organizations that know what they're doing. They have contracted the city many years, so they know how to operate that process. It's just the department who is public Department of Safety that's continue to kind of, I don't know what they're doing, basically. Sorry, it's not you. You're doing a wonderful work. It's just that we need a better clearance and better leadership with this department. The folks should be on the ground by now, and it's not the organization's fault, and it's not, lack of money, lack of resource. We gave you those resources. It's just the leadership with this department that need to get this. All these questions are coming up are valid. It's like, why are we not on the ground? Why are we not helping those folks that need the help? We provided these resources. There's supposed to be some kind of solution by now. It's just this department that needs to take responsibility and get this negotiation start early and sign the contract and get the work done. That should have been done a long time ago. I'm frustrated the same way most council members are frustrated here that we're starting this program late. And also, I'm gonna really mention what Councilmember Cashman mentioned, which is the contract was offered, we were on the list on Nicollet 18 in Nicollet. I don't know if it's map 5 or group 5 or zone 5, I'm not sure. That is still, it's like, there's nowhere to go, what to tell Stevens Square resident, this neighborhood that we continue to go, we report back, and we rely on those information from the departments, but it's a little confusing to me that, and I don't know what to tell this Stevens Square neighbors and so on, but overall, I feel like, department leadership needs to get their act together and get this contract signed a long time ago. We're heading to summertime and people need the services, and we want to make sure our youth, our community members are keeping our community safe, especially summertime. It should be a summer safety plan. This should have been done a long time ago. We had the whole entire winter. We passed the budget, end of last year? So anyways, I'll just close it down, and I hope you can understand my frustration. And it's not towards you. You're a wonderful, wonderful person who really came and showed up in the community and explained to the residents and bring their temperature down. You have done that wonderful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll recognize Council Vice President Chuck Tai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll echo the sentiment that I think you're doing a tremendous job with a number of circumstances that are entirely out of your control, and you're doing your best to manage. Now, I have several questions for you, and I can appreciate if your answer to any of them is going to be, let me get back to you in writing. But if that's going to be your answer to any question, I'm going to need to understand why. So either you need to get back to me in writing because you don't know the answer, or you need to get back to me in writing because you don't think that you know the answer, but you're not sure if it's legal for you to tell me. And in that case, we're going to go and ask the city attorney. Or you can't give me the answer because you've been given the direction to not speak about such a thing in public. But one of those things, or maybe there's some other reason to explain.
Point of order, Madam Chair. We're deviating from us.
I'm sorry.
I'd ask the clerk for a ruling, please.
It's her time.
I'm sorry.
I have the gavel.
Sorry.
We're going to take a second. Council Vice President, please continue.
Thank you. So I know we've talked about Zone 5 actually several times, so I'm going to go back and just restart how I'm approaching Zone 5. Zone 5 includes portions of Ward 6, portions of Ward 7, and portions of Ward 10. I know it is being paid in part by a budget amendment to bring additional resources into the Whittier neighborhood due to the fact that there has been a tremendous amount, or there's been this increase in gun violence in the Whittier neighborhood predating the COVID-19 pandemic that has gone unaddressed. And so it is in part to address that challenge that we're experiencing in this community. Can you tell me, so, and Zone 5 was going to be contracted with Mad Dads, if I'm remembering correctly. That fell through throughout the steps of negotiation. Is there a timeline for finding a vendor to perform these services in Zone 5? This year?
Councilman Chugtai, there's currently not an established timeline internal to NSD to work on that.
So I appreciate that. Everything is prioritized, right? So all of us have to-do lists that are never ending, but we all kind of know within our to-do list what matters and what doesn't, or what is at the top of what matters the most and what's at the bottom of what matters the most. No judgment on the prioritization, but I want to know, is this one of those things that matters, like as in is being worked on pretty actively, or is this one of those things that we'd like to get to and it does matter, and of course it does, and of course we care about the people that live there, but it's not being worked on actively, and there isn't a plan of a plan of a plan to work on it actively this year?
Councilmember Chugtai, this is one of the items that is currently being worked on.
Okay.
So it is being worked on, yes.
Awesome. That's super helpful for me to know. Now, earlier you were asked if there has been an offer made to any vendor since the contract with Mad Dads fell through. If there's been an offer made to any vendor to perform these services. So I'm going to ask you that question again. Have we attempted at all to engage any vendor to perform these services in Zone 5? I believe I have a need to know.
I am seeing looks at each other. I would like to be able to recognize through the chair. I don't see City Attorney in queue, but I see your hand up, so I will recognize you.
Thank you, Councilmember. So what's not public data is like specifics, right? So you can't identify, which vendors have been made offers, et cetera, but I think the question is not asking for specifics, it's just asking whether an offer was, whether those conversations have happened. So as long as you're not identifying specific, vendors, the information about specific vendors is not public data. The need to know piece is not quite right in this setting because it's an open public forum and there's additional information that you might be able to learn not in a public setting. So, those would be the limitations for an open meeting.
So just point of clarification, that is a question that Deputy Director Lakes can answer because it's not asking about any specific groups. It's just has other vendors been asked?
Yes.
Councilmember Chugtai, to the best of my knowledge, we have not asked another group to cover this, but I would like to respond in writing with a 100% correct thing because I want to double check that that's correct.
Excellent. I would really appreciate that. Okay, and if another group has not been engaged to perform such services, when will that happen? Since I really hear you, this is something that's a priority. This is like at the top of your list, right? So when is that gonna happen? I know as soon as possible, maybe your answer. I really hear you. I don't want to put a calendar reminder on my calendar to email you about this every day, hoping that as soon as possible might be happening that day. So should I bug you about this in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month, in 2 months? I mean, I just need to know what to tell my constituents who are bugging me about this every day. So I just want to know, and that's my job. It's my job. So I'm happy that they're bugging me about this every day. I just want to know, how often can I bug you until we may be able to solve their problem?
Councilmember Chowdhury, Chugtai, I appreciate that question a lot. Let me work on a communication plan with you so that we're communicating in sync with your constituents and on a timeline that we have information on. So let me respond in writing to that. Because I do not know is the answer.
Okay, so that will be for
Thank you.
administrative follow-up. And Council Vice President, do you have any other questions?
I don't have any other questions. Thank
Okay,
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have not chaired this committee many times before, I think once before. So I would request that everybody on this body, including speakers up at the podium, speak through the chair. As per the usual rules within other committees, I think that would just be helpful in us moving through this conversation. And then I will remind council members that as chair, I'm tasked with preserving the order and decorum in our proceedings. And so if there's a point of order requested, please give an opportunity for me to respond to that, and we can move through this. I can tell that there is a lot of passion up here. We are talking about public safety. We all deeply care about that. So just taking a second to bring us back, and we'll continue moving through, and I will recognize Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. Deputy Director Lakes, thank you so much, and thanks to you and your staff. You're doing a great job. What I'm hearing loud and clear is that you've added a layer of accountability to this program that has not been here, a layer of accountability that we have asked for, a layer of accountability that the citizens have asked for. So please take that message back. You're doing a great job, despite any criticisms that might be leveled at you and your department. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other questions from members of the body? I'm not seeing any other discussion, so I will ask the clerk to receive and file that first. Oh, sorry, that is not the right part of this. I believe we need to take a vote on this one. Thank you so much, Deputy Director Lakes. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Next, we have a brief presentation about, I apologize, colleagues. Now we'll turn this meeting actually over to Council President Payne as the chair of the Settlement Subcommittee.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chowdhury. First, we have a contract amendment authorizing an additional 18 months of assistance with police misconduct investigations within the Office of Police Conduct Review. Staff is here to answer any questions. I'll just note that this was highlighted in the recent semi-annual report from ALIFA, our independent evaluator. They highlighted a lot of the strides that we have made in OPCR, restructuring it, adding capacity, building staff expertise, but they also cautioned a risk that our outside firm was quickly moving through our contract dollars, and this action is aiming to extend that contract with that outside firm so that we don't continue to have challenges around accumulating backlog. We've been able to stay relatively on top of that backlog and starting to work through it through our capacity expansion within OPCR, and we don't want to lose that momentum. So that's what this action is about. But if there's any questions for staff, they are available. Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, President Payne. I actually did have some questions for staff if they can come up.
Council President.
Thank you, Director. I just wanted to get some clarification on a couple of things. In light of one, just want to name, I'm excited to vote in favor of extending this contract because absolutely having a backlog related to misconduct complaints is unacceptable. And I think there's already collective agreement that as a city, we need to make sure that's not a repeated pattern in practice. But first, I wanted clarity on the contract itself in terms of we're asking for extension for an additional 18 months, which was permitted under the original contract passage 2024, which stated it would cost $1 million annually, but yet there in the fiscal note, it noted that it would be $0 associated with this extension. So just want to get clarity around the funding component of this extension. If you could share a little bit more information about that.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, Michelle Phillips, Civil Rights Director. Through the chair to Councilmember Wansley, we are asking for a no-cost extension because there was kind of a slow start to the execution of the contract. It was executed in May of 2024. I was not here as of yet, and there was some challenges with the infrastructure and the processing and assignment of cases through OPCR at that time to the external investigators, as well as expectations and evaluations of the work of the external investigators. So once we got Director Fujisawa on board in October, and we also had our investigations supervisor appointed at that time as well, we worked through with our external investigators what the process would be, as well as with our city attorney, how we could vet based on the contract, what cases they could have, they could not have, and then we kind of got into a system flow. So we were not moving through the expected amount of cases at that time. Additionally, when we executed the contract, there were 2 individuals that were assigned to this contract. So we could only add capacity with 2 additional folks while we were staffing up. In January, there was an additional individual who was assigned to this contract with the law firm. So we did not expend the funds at the pace that we believed that they would have expended. So we are not asking for additional funding. We are just asking for a no-cost extension.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And actually, can you share a little bit more specifics around the amount of backlog cases that are going to be covered under this contract extension? I name this because I know on May 23rd, and I believe also maybe even at the mayor's state of address for the city, that it was shared that the OPCR as well as IA backlog cases were nearly eliminated. But in the RCA for this item, it clearly outlines that there's a backlog of misconduct cases for both OPCR and IA, or internal affairs. So I'm just trying to understand and reconcile those 2 public statements and the need for this contract in terms of, yes, what is this actually translating to for this extension?
Absolutely. Through the chair to Councilmember Wansley. So what we're extending this for is an ad hoc contract, so this will be as needed. Should there potentially be another issue or challenge that would happen within the city limits where there may be an influx of cases that OPCR may not be able to handle at that time, then we would have individuals on call. We tend to have like on-call contracts for certain types of issues or challenges that may happen. Additionally, right now, they currently have 35 cases from the backlog. What we're working on and focusing on is making sure that cases that are current, as well as backlog cases, are assigned so that we don't add and have another backlog case. So we are simultaneously assigning cases that are backlogged, as well as current cases, to our OPCR staff while we're training them up and while we're making sure we have the capacity. So as we focus on our hiring plan that we just executed, thank you all for making sure that OPCR is fully staffed, and then also to make sure that they're trained to handle the cases at the skill level they need to, and in accordance with the settlement agreement's 180 days. We don't want to backslide. So this is a safety net. Should we need to use them, they are available. But this does not mean that they are our first course of action. OPCR hopefully will have capacity. We are unclear as of yet because we have to take a look and have a safety net to see if we have the capacity that we need to make sure that we do not create another backlog.
Okay, so we're still working through the existing backlog. This contract is to offer assistance, as you mentioned, and to make sure it doesn't increase, but there is a backlog, because I think I immediately got hit up by some constituents saying, wait, so you do or do not have a backlog? And I think there's even clarification of what that means. Of backlog, are we saying from the filing process to the intake? That means we're eliminating it, or until it reaches a decision by the chief, like the chain of command of what it takes to actually eliminate a case? Yeah.
Through the chair to Councilmember Wansley, great question. So the backlog that we're discussing, and that is usually in the ALIFA reports, are the historical backlog, the 234 cases. We don't stop continuing to have more complaints come in. So the primary focus is to make sure that we focused on that. That was OPCR's focus and intake. It was originally there. We have 30 days per the settlement agreement to get it out of intake. And then there's an additional 150 days. Clearly, with the backlog, we didn't hit that time. ALIFA has given us some buffer in the first year and second year to get to where we need to go. Right now, we are on track to clear the historical backlog of the 234 cases by August. We do have cases that have come in that are now over 180 days, but are less than a year old. So as we start to clear that out, and when we say clear, we mean OPCR will clear ours, mean complete our investigative process. We have the panel, we have more capacity, they're moving theirs through. And then they will go to the chief for the final decision. We are only responsible for OPCRs. We're making sure that the capacity for the panel has what they need to get the review. But when we say we are completed with our portion of the backlog, that is the external investigator and OPCR investigations, and then they will sit at the feet of the panel for their review and through the chief. There, of course, is also processes for grievances and things of that nature. But for the sake of this, we want to make sure that as we're completing this, we don't start piling things up. So again, this is just for kind of a catch us if we potentially slide or slip back, but this is not going to be our first course of action.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, ma'am.
I am adding myself to queue, although it doesn't look like it's working, but maybe a point of clarification, because in reading the report, I'll just quote it. The independent evaluation team has expressed its concern that the authorized funding for the outside law firm contract is quickly being exhausted, and if the contract cap is not increased, the use of force investigative case backlog will simply return to unmanageable levels. Were they conflating time and money in this? Was there actually enough funding in the contract, but that 18-month was expiring?
So I through the chair, to Council President Payne, I do not want to speak for ALIFA. However, I believe that they were specifically speaking about the IA backlog, and they have a separate external firm who is assisting them.
Got that. So should we anticipate a contract extension request for that contract?
I will not speak for MPD or IA on that, sir.
Okay, great. Well, I think that clears up my questions. Is there any other questions? Vice Chair, go ahead. Councilmember Chowdhury. Yeah.
Thank you. I had to refresh my speaker management because I was going through the same issue as you. Thank you so much, Director Phillips, for kind of taking some of our questions and going through that. I just want to make sure that I have the numbers here right. So in order for it to be a historical backlog, it's 180 days since May of 2024, or what's the, when do you classify it historic backlog?
Sure. So prior to me coming here, there was an agreed upon date, which was May 23rd, 2024, and back that was any cases that we had that were classified as the historical backlog. So those cases that were assessed at that time were what were considered the historical backlog, and the cases that we're focused on. And it can't be a moving target. So that bucket is what we are working through, and that is the same bucket that we are anticipating completing by August the 31st.
Okay, and that's that bucket that had 234 cases, correct?
Yeah, so that was a bucket of cases that may have been 180 days, 300 days old. I think one was well over 1,000 days. There were some challenges with timelines, and I don't want to speak for past directors, but staffing capacity and other things that may have contributed to that kind of influx of a backlog.
Great. And then in the ALIFA semi-annual report, they share that as of March 31st, 2025, 65 cases were still under investigation and 17 were still pending assignment to an investigator. Have those numbers changed between now and then?
They have. So I'm happy to say that under Director Fujisawa's leadership, all of the backlog cases have been assigned. So we do not have any pending cases. And as of right now, there are 52 that are actively being investigated between OPCR and our external investigators. They're working through that. So we are on track as of right now.
Great. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in queue, I'll move approval of this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That carries. And our next item is a staff direction from Councilmember Wansley regarding the settlement agreement with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. I will turn the mic over to Councilmember Wansley to speak more on this item.
Thank you, President Payne. So all of us are aware that back in February, the Trump administration paused the federal consent decree with the support of our presiding judge, and also had motion to extend that pause multiple times. And then on May 21st, the Department of Justice moved to end the federal consent decree, and a final decision will be made by the presiding judge in the coming weeks. I think we're also very aware that the findings from the Department of Justice were supposed to lead to a federal consent decree, which is a binding legal agreement that will have mandated about 400 individual reforms that the city would have been required to implement to ensure that we have a police department that does not engage in patterns or practices that violates the constitutional or federal law. And this is including excessive force, racial discrimination against Black and Native residents, discrimination against people with behavioral health disabilities, and violations of free speech. Some of those provisions also address pursuit and chases, which have led to the deaths of civilians caused by MPD, including Lynell Frazier. They also respond to how MPD must change its practices with its engagement of minors, which I know is significant considering we've had an increased number of our city's young people engaging in activities that have put them in increased contact with law enforcement, specifically also with MPD. These provisions also reinforce the need for us to maintain our behavioral health initiatives, such as the city's existing behavior crisis response program, which has provided thousands of our residents with high quality and equitable mental health services. It's been stated from Mayor Frye himself that he publicly supports enacting these provisions included within the federal consent decree. And while that's encouraging, I also believe Minneapolis residents deserve not only a verbal commitment, but a legally binding one too. And since January, I have made great efforts to work with the mayor's administration, the city attorney, and my colleagues to initiate a formal process to work with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights to modify our existing settlement agreement to incorporate most, if not all, of those 400 plus provisions in the federal consent decree that are now at risk due to the Trump's DOJ motioning to dismiss the complaint. And I want to note, this was widely anticipated by many of us, which is why we asked for a process to be moved forward. But now it's June, and we have nothing to show to say that a process has been started with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, that progress is being made to explore integration of those federal provisions into our existing settlement agreement, the limitations or possibilities with that. We don't know if a table has been comprised with city leadership and the Minnesota Department of Human Rights to formalize efforts to make these things happen. And this is exactly why I know my co-author, Councilmember Chowdhury, decided to bring forward this motion, which is intended to demonstrate that this council has a commitment to use every tool that we have to hold this mayor, as well as future mayors, accountable to ensure that our police department is providing our residents with public safety services that respect their human and constitutional rights. That said, I know my colleagues, including myself, received a memo late last night outlining the city attorney's rationale for why this body should not proceed with directing the city attorney's office to proceed with a formal process to ultimately have this goal of the federal consent decree terms be codified within our local settlement agreement with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. I know a number of my colleagues, including myself, are still processing many of the very surprising and I would say disturbing arguments that are listed in this memo that also repeatedly references government structure as a basis of these claims. And that said, I do think this memo should be presented on by the city attorney's office, and then council should consider next steps following that presentation, and for us to discuss all the options that we can explore to make sure that we can initiate a formal modification process with our Minnesota Department of Human Rights partners to see how we can do this. I know Council President Payne has an item before us that will assist us in exploring those options or potential additional options, and I'll let him speak to that motion when we consider his staff directive. But it's very clear this matter warrants additional discussion, and I do want to take the time to allow that to happen. So I would like to motion to actually postpone this item to the next COW on June 17th. I think it's also timely. I know June 16th. My apologies, to June 16th. And I know actually, Council Member Chowdhury is working very diligently to also get our current independent evaluator, Alifa, to be able to come present at that meeting too on their progress report that they just released. So I think, again, this all would be very helpful in helping us make informed decisions on how to ensure we're not just making verbal commitments, which is very easy and has been the practice of city leadership that got us in this predicament in the first place, and actually doing everything we can to codify and have checks and balances in place to make sure that those commitments actually bring reform into a material reality. So with that, I will ask for a second to that motion.
Second.
Councilmember Wansley has moved to postpone this to the next cycle. It's been properly seconded. I put myself in queue, and I'll recognize Councilmember Chowdhury next, but I just wanted to I'll speak to this when I get to my turn, but my staff direction, I'll also be postponing for the next cycle as well, because I think this should all be done as part of a package. But I will recognize Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, President Payne. I just wanted to formally ask the clerks to note me as a co-author on the item. And I think in this moment, it's really, really important to recognize that with the Trump administration, DOJ moving to dismiss, a lot of our residents, community members, folks who are partners in police accountability are really, really worried that the provisions that were listed in something that we voted on will not be included and will not be taken action on, and particularly around First Amendment rights, around people with people with disabilities, people experiencing behavioral health crises. These are provisions that we know are needed to improve the actions of the police department, and without them, we lose a lot of trust. And I also think this is a really good moment for greater public transparency. We have now had 2 reports from Effective Law Enforcement for All, which is our independent evaluator. And I think it is high time that we have a public discussion where they get to present and talk about their findings, so that our community members can understand more deeply through the dialogue that we're having with them, where progress is at in implementing the provisions within the MDHR settlement agreement, where there are places where we still might be behind. There were a number of goals that were achieved in this first year, but there was a significant amount, I believe 17 out of 24 goals that were not at completion or approved by the independent evaluator. And I think it's important for us to have a discussion about that so we can continue to make progress. I think it's a sobering conversation. I don't think we should be in a moment of self-congratulations. 5 years has passed from 2020. However, we are at the very beginning of this work. It has only been year 1, and it's important for us to figure out how we can kind of have these conversations simultaneously, right? How do we ensure that the provisions laid out in the DOJ consent decree are incorporated, and make sure that there is a actual mechanism to do it, not just verbal commitments? How do we understand how other cities who have been under a consent decree have implemented provisions, and how do we ensure that we have this really, really important component of accountability, which is public accountability, that's needed to not only ensure reform happens, but change the culture of the Minneapolis Police Department that has led to race-based policing and violations of our community members' constitutional rights.
Sir, we need to stick to our business. So I added myself to queue, and I wanted to just say I walked this staff direction on, but to just give a little bit more context, this is something that I'd actually been working with our policy and research team on since maybe January, February, similar to the timeline in which Councilmember Wansley had been interested in pursuing a more formal relationship with MDHR when it comes to how we might be responsive to what the Trump administration might do. A lot of this has been grounded in speculation and assumption, and there was speculation on what the Trump administration would do. There was assumptions about how the courts would respond. Fast forward to today, and we don't have to assume a lot about the federal court because we've got our decision from the judge. And one of the things that I was looking to do that I think pairs well with what Councilmember Wansley is trying to do is really control what we can control. And there are certain things that are within our control and our purview, both as city council and as the city as a government. And there are things that are not in our control. The staff direction outlined here is trying to explore ways that we could provide a level of oversight around these reform provisions so that we're doing more than just a verbal commitment, but having some structural components on how we're going to make sure that these reforms are getting implemented in a way that our community can understand and trust, right? And so I'm going to hold this over as well for another cycle. I will just as chair kind of make that decision if there's no objection. But I think the goal here is really to say, what is the lane that city council has in terms of oversight? What is the lane that the mayor has? What is the lane that the city has? Because, again, setting aside any legal opinion about what the right procedural methodology is, We are not in control of what MDHR would agree to. We are not in control of what the court or the judge would agree to. And we see in our federal court a judge that was actually hostile to the idea of this consent decree in the first place. And I'll just highlight a statement from that judge. In the court's view, the considerable sum of taxpayer money allocated for the proposed consent decree's oversight and execution, including paying the monitor $750,000 per year, would better fund hiring police officers to bolster the city's dwindling police force and promote public safety. That is in that judge's opinion. I don't think that we share that judge's opinion when it comes to the role and importance of reform and keeping our community safe. And so we need to focus on what we can control, not just as city council, but as a city. And I'll be reaching out to the mayor and ideally working closely with the mayor to have a shared vision on how we are going to deliver on these commitments, right? Because as we have seen in the past, we can make commitments on paper and those commitments can fail our community. Those commitments failed Amir Locke, right? There was a commitment to ban no-knock warrants. And here we are with a family grieving the loss of another black man at the hands of our police department. So we need something more than those commitments. We need a accountability structure that is going to hold us accountable to those commitments. I am going to work very closely with our city attorney. I'm going to reach out directly to the mayor to say, how do we actually, as a city, not as council, not as mayor, as a city, make sure that we are committed to the provisions of this consent decree. So with that, I'm going to just move that we hold both Councilmember Wansley and this staff direction to our next committee of the whole on June 16th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. That carries, and that completes all the business of our settlement agreement committee. And I will return the chair back to Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, President Payne. Now we will be receiving and filing a presentation of two presentations related to domestic violence and analyzing MPD's responses. First, I'll welcome the group Global Rights for Women. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. To the first page and I'll look at all. Hello, sorry for that delay. My name is Cheryl Thomas, and I am the Executive Director of Global Rights for Women. We're a small nonprofit here based in Minneapolis, but we do work all around the world, in addition to our local and national work. And we are here today to address the profound danger presented to the people of Minneapolis by the failure of our police to respond to domestic violence effectively and prevent further murders such as that of Allison Lucier, whose aunt Jana Williams is here with us today. In June 2023, Global Rights for Women, in collaboration with the City of Minneapolis Domestic Violence Working Group, some of whom I see are here today with us, published this institutional analysis that you have of the Minneapolis police response to domestic violence. The report was developed in response to a request in 2017 from the Minneapolis Police Conduct Oversight Commission. The commission was concerned that Minneapolis police practices were putting people's safety at risk and not holding violent offenders accountable. To produce the report, Global Rights for Women and the working group evaluated over 100 police reports and other documents, files, policies, records of 911 calls, notes from ride-alongs with police, interviewing dozens of survivors of domestic violence, interviewing and observing practitioners. I myself did 2 ride-alongs with the police, all of whose job it was, these practitioners, to respond to cases of domestic violence effectively. We evaluated those practices from the standpoint of the survivor. That report, this report in my hands that you have also, was published 2 years ago. The working group members are all listed in the report, and also included a number of nonprofits in the community, again, some who are represented here today. We were part of the working group. Cornerstone, Esperanza United, Tubman, Domestic Violence, the Domestic Abuse Project, and then, as I say, criminal justice actors, the police, county attorney, city attorney. All those participants, in fact, I would just direct you to the first pages of those report for the non-government and government participants. My understanding is that the work continues, and in fact, I see when I came in today that there is a report from the working group about the work they are doing on risk assessment. And that is a very good thing. Global Rights for Women no longer participates in these meetings, standing in solidarity with Jana Williams, Allison Luciere's aunt. We have identified public advocacy as the most effective way to achieve change. Globally, I'd like to just note, and we've provided some information about this too before I get to the gaps that are outlined in our institutional analysis. Globally, it's really important to understand this context because we experience it here in Minneapolis also. An estimated 736 million women, almost 1 in 3, have been subjected to violence in at least once in their lifetime. Most violence against women is perpetrated by current or former husbands and intimate partners. Much of this violence goes unreported. And when it is reported, perpetrators, I would say in my experience, are more often than not held accountable, resulting in those perpetrators' ability to carry out violence with impunity, as is the case, unfortunately, here in Minneapolis. According to the Hennepin County's Attorney's Office, felony domestic violence cases from the Minneapolis Police Department are the second in number only to drug cases in the percentage of the entire Minneapolis Police Department caseload. And in Hennepin County Court, domestic abuse-related family cases were the most frequent type of filing in all 9 types of family case filings from 2018 to 2022. Council members, this is a red alert. These numbers are a red alert. Our community has a serious public safety problem and a dangerous record of failing to address gender-based violence that should no longer be tolerated by our city leaders. So I'm going to move now to the gaps that we identified in the report. But in the interest of time, we have another speaker, at least one other speaker, talking about this issue here today. Each of the findings that we made in our report we call a gap, and it's accompanied by a detailed recommendation for change, a detailed recommendation for reform. It's really a roadmap for city leaders that was provided to all of you, all city leaders. I will focus on the gaps most relevant to Allison Luciere so that we can connect these words and statistics with a human face and begin to emphasize the urgent need for reform in our city. Again, our report was published, the report of Global Rights for Women and the Working Group, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And in that period of time, Allison Luciere was murdered. We found, I'm going to focus on number 1 here, when abusers fled the scene before police arrived, officers and follow-up investigators often did not attempt to locate them at all, leaving victims in a more dangerous position, more vulnerable to future violence. This is very common in domestic violence cases. When abusers know it is a city police practice to not follow up, they are empowered, and that is what has happened in Minneapolis. Second gap, particularly relevant to Allison Luciere's case. If abusers who violated no contact orders were not at the scene of the incident when victims made those complaints to police, there was often no follow-up action. again, emboldening abusers in our city to continue violating orders. In one instance, in Allison Luciere's case, the police were present with Allison and Chuck Voss, her abuser, after multiple complaints about his conduct, applications for orders of protection, and police allowed him to leave the scene without any detention or arrest. The next finding I'm going to focus on. Officers often did not interview witnesses to the abuser's conduct, including children, or document the identity or contact information of witnesses, lessening the opportunity for prosecution or probation actions that could protect victim safety. Police failure in Allison Luciere's case to interview witnesses, to get their contact information, to follow up, is documented throughout this case, both before and after Allison Luciere's murder. Next finding that I will focus on here, and this is the topic of the working group's materials that they offer you here today, and that is risk assessment. The current risk assessment practices still today persist. The police do not use risk data to prioritize the use of criminal justice resources towards the most dangerous offenders in our city. And I have to tell you, in my 34 years of doing this work on reform, legal and law enforcement reform on domestic violence, I have rarely seen a more dangerous abuser than Chuck Voss, who was Allison Luciere's abuser. Nearly every single sign of a high-risk offender was present in this case. Glaring things like strangulation, threats to kill her, threats that she believed he would kill her, fleeing the scene, violating court orders. Not only were these factors present in this case, they were actually documented in the reports that the police did write. Where was the urgency to save this life? Where is the urgency now to hold this violent man accountable? Again, this report was published 2 years ago, long before Allison's murder. Global Rights for Women and our team have knocked on countless doors, including the mayor's office, the chief of police, elected officials, local and national elected officials, and other community leaders, both in Minneapolis, in our state, and in our government representatives. Accountability, I was listening to the presentation before this one here today, accountability. Our leaders are accountable for what is happening in Minneapolis to domestic violence victims, disproportionately to those who are marginalized, Native women, women of color, immigrant women. Leadership is what holds those practitioners accountable for reforming their practices and ending this devastating human rights abuse in Minneapolis. We need leadership, we need accountability, and we need a firm commitment to ensure that there will be no more victims like Allison Luciere, where systemic negligence due to racial and gender bias ultimately cost them their lives. Thank you so much, council members.
We need your involvement, your intervention.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think we will save questions until the second presentation is done, since they're so interrelated. So next I will ask Domestic Violence Working Group to come up, and I'll welcome not Amaranthony, but
as well. Nicole Matthews.
Okay, well, welcome. You may begin your presentation.
Will come up.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, thank you. I'm Nicole Matthews with the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. I was the vice chair of Minnesota's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force. I am also the chair of Minnesota's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Reward Fund Board. And I want to put a little bit of perspective on this in regards to these issues when it comes to Native women. Native women make up about 1% of the population here in Minnesota, and we represent over 8% of the murdered women here in Minnesota. The rates of violent victimization are the highest for Native women than any other racial or ethnic group. And those are things that should be alarming, considering everywhere that we stand on this land is Indian land. Whether we are on a reservation or not, this is our land, this is where we are from. We are the indigenous people here. When we were doing our report, one of the things that we had a practice of doing was listening to those families and to those that have been most impacted by this issue. And one of the issues that we heard over and over and over again from families were of their relatives that had been murdered, and it was classified either as an overdose or as a suicide, but their family knew there had been threats to their lives. They knew that it was a murder. The community knew what the threats were and what the history of violence was from that person, and yet nothing was done. And it was always the families that were pushing and pushing and pushing, as we have seen with Allison's case. We have seen her aunt pushing and pushing and demanding that something happen. I think it's really important that we look at the systemic failures that have happened to those that have been drug involved, where there has been a dismissal of their victimization and of the violence that is caused against them because of a perceived wrongdoing. Right? And we have seen this over and over again. We see it in the media where in many times, instead of our relatives getting the wonderful pictures that make us feel sorry and the Gabby Petito stories, right? Like where we are concerned, the whole nation is concerned for her safety. We get pictures of our mugshots and of pictures that shows people a negative side. So people wonder, what did they do to cause their own demise? And these are the stories that we see over and over and over again for Native women and for women of color. And it perpetuates this cycle of dismissing us, of not responding to us, of not getting justice for our families and for our communities. I'm a longtime resident of Minneapolis. I grew up in this city. I raised my kids in this city. This is my city. And I know that we can do better in Minneapolis. And I know that we can create systems where we will feel more safe to come forward, that we can actually rely on our law enforcement and our systems to show up, to investigate, to prosecute, and then to administer the correct form of accountability and justice. And I really believe that one of our highest forms of love for our people and for our community is within accountability. And we have to hold offenders accountable. We have to have justice for our relatives. We have to do more, and we have to find also ways. I think when we create systems that are responsive, we can also create systems of prevention so that we don't have another Allison Lucier. We don't have another family who is talking about the failure to their relative, to their family, to their community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Next, I will welcome up Amaranthony Keefe, the Executive Director at Domestic Abuse Project. Welcome.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Thank you so much for having us here today. We're excited to be able to talk with you about the work that we've been doing over the last 2 years and about the pilot that we're about to launch. So my name's Amadini Keefe. I'm the Executive Director at the Domestic Abuse Project.
I'm Allison Likens. I work for Cornerstone, and we have an advocate embedded in the Minneapolis Domestic Abuse Unit.
You might not be on the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stand right in front of the...
All right, I will say that again. I am Allison Likens. I work for Cornerstone. We have an advocate embedded in the Domestic Assault Unit at the MPD.
I'm Emily Olson. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Investigations Bureau at MPD.
So as Cheryl said, there was a report that was published where our work group had put together and spent many months and weeks and hours looking through a lot of data, talking with victim survivors, talking with police officers, talking with staff from various agencies to look at what the response was for domestic violence. After after that report was published, that same group wanted to stay together and be able to not just have published that report, but really collaborate to implement the recommendations that were outlined as a part of that work. And so, although some of the people that were on that committee at the time are no longer participating, the agencies remained. And so right now, many of whom are here in this room, the main agencies that are involved is Hennepin County, and so we have Hennepin County Attorney's Office, the Domestic Violence Unit. We also have Victim Witness, as well as the Domestic Abuse Service Center. We also have Hennepin County Probation, specifically the Domestic Violence Unit, the Minneapolis Police Department, and we have had, I will say, an extraordinary showing of leadership from the MPD at our meetings, which we've been really grateful for. The Minneapolis Navigator Program, the domestic violence navigators, as well as the entire Navigator team, which has been wonderful. Cornerstone Tubman and the Domestic Abuse Project, as well as the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office, again, the Domestic Violence Unit. And I will say, with taking the project and continuing on, part of what we decided to do was to bring the DV work group into community. And so while the Domestic Abuse Project facilitates the group, it's really, I will say, held by community advocacy and the rest of the agencies as a whole. So the purpose of the work group right now, I will say, is to better support and really assist police and the rest of the agencies that are part of this work group in really improving our collective response to domestic violence. So we really acknowledge that it's not just one specific agency that struggles with recognizing and addressing domestic violence. It's a ripple effect, and that we globally have opportunities for change. And through our conversations, even though the focus was on MPD, we all can recognize that there's different things that we can do to shift, and that having a shift happen within MPD also will create opportunities for change and for bettering the systems that we have throughout advocacy, throughout the justice system. And so we're working together to really improve what that looks like across the board for victims as they're moving through a justice process. The priorities that we have right now, while there's 7 gaps, we decided to focus on 4 specifically. The first is the risk assessment. What MPD was using was really outdated, and what we really identified was that there was a need to be able to rank high-risk cases. And so if we created a new risk assessment form, then we would be able to pool the resources that are limited to high-risk cases where there's a possibility for change for that victim. The next was gone on arrival cases, as well as order for protection violations. As Cheryl stated, when those 2 things were happening, there was a lack of response. And so being able to prioritize high-risk cases would also help address those 2 problems. And then bias is something that we know was embedded in all of the different gaps that we were addressing. And it's something that we talk about with all of the conversations and decisions that we make as a committee. And we also know that the CCPO and the consent decree and the settlement agreement is also addressing bias specifically. As far as the work group goes, it's really about increasing safety for victims, for first responders, and for the community at large. One of the research points that's come out more recently is that when you look at mass shootings, 70% of folks that are involved in mass shootings have a domestic violence history. And so when we're thinking about increasing community safety and addressing domestic violence, really recognizing, again, global impact in the way that we provide services, but also global impact in the way that it lands in community. The other is increasing accountability for us in the work that we do, and among each of us in our agencies, and also increasing accountability in the way that we're able to communicate and the culture that we have with each other as helping providers.
So with those goals in mind and the knowledge we gained from the institutional analysis, we decided to focus our attention on the risk assessment gap. We've been working together to develop a standardized and evidence-based risk assessment that will allow us to objectively identify high-risk offenders. This new risk assessment will be used in our upcoming pilot project, which we'll talk about in a minute, to examine possible ways to shift systems responses and focus our resources on the most high-risk cases. Our intention is to increase victim safety, improve relationships between victims and system professionals, and increase offender accountability. The pilot risk assessment will also assist in creating shared language that will be used among all criminal justice partners and community agencies. We will utilize the assessments to make decisions regarding bail conditions, conditions of release, supervision through probation, treatment, and safety planning with victims. Through this project, we will enhance our collection of risk information and use that data to increase safety for survivors, first responders, and the community at large. We realize that updating the risk assessment is a really big task, but it is a change that will have global impact throughout the criminal justice system and should result in improved communication and support for victims.
So our current practice is that the MPD officer hands the victims their risk assessment questions and they ask the victim to fill it out. It's outdated. We found that that was not the best practice. So we are going to update the practice. We're going to ask the officers to fill out the risk assessment, and therefore engaging the victim. Based off the victim's responses, they might ask additional follow-up questions. It just gets the rapport going between the victim and the officer, making both of them feel more comfortable and safe. Specific questions will be marked as flagged for consideration of high-risk cases. Some of those questions that will be on the risk assessment are about physical assault, sexual violence, intimidation and threats, strangulation, control, coercion, isolation, and violence during their pregnancy and access to guns. All of those would be considered high risk and a risk for lethality.
And just as part of that, it's important to note that this change will give officers a chance to build better rapport with victims and give them a greater understanding of the lived experiences of the victims they're interacting with. With this information, they'll be better equipped to support the victim and get them connected to safety services and resources in a more seamless and timely way. We're hopeful this will create more trust in the system and allow victims to feel safer in providing the context of their lived experiences.
Okay, I know we heard a lot about timelines today. So just to provide context around our timeline, it has been 2 years since the project or the original report was written. And so wanting to share a little bit more about the methodology that we took to get to where we are today with the risk assessment that we're using. So a lot of effort and intention went into creating the risk assessment tool that we are going to be moving forward with. There was a lot of literature review and content that was looked into, best practices and how to administer risk assessment, what are evidence-based risk assessment questions, and how do you really determine what is considered high risk. There's also lots of experiences that run parallel to risk and impact risk assessments. An example would be that victims often talk about having their property taken, and that might seem like a benign issue, but that often leads to them trying to get their property back, going back to the person that they are trying to separate from, and is really tied to power and control. And so while it seems like a benign issue, it really runs parallel to a pretty big flag for risk. So looking into what those issues are and trying to think about how we're going to incorporate that into a risk assessment. We also looked at fatality review reports in Minnesota, to the homicide reports in Minnesota to see what was coming up in the stories of fatalities, and then talked with local advocates and survivors and talked about their experiences and incorporating what that would look like for risk. We then moved into actually trying to put together what an assessment would look like. We talked to jurisdictions around Minneapolis and gathered the tools that they were using. We looked at the frequency of the tools that are used at a national level. And then we also talked with different departments to see what those tools are looking like, and we looked at Minneapolis's specific tool. We put together a master list, like a mega list of risk assessment questions, and then as a committee, this was probably the most painful part of the process, looked at all of those questions and then determined which ones that we were going to use, and whittled it down to what seemed like a sustainable amount of questions to ask a victim, what seemed like a sustainable experience for a police officer, and what seemed like a useful tool for officers and for folks in systems that would need to be able to use it throughout a judicial process. So the point that we're at right now is being able to identify, of the questions that we have, how are we going to make this tool useful where every single question does not become, like if one question gets answered yes, it doesn't become a flag for risk, but that there's a set of those questions that are responded to as a yes, which will then flag that as a high-risk case that we will prioritize.
So the actual pilot project, our goal is to launch it in July. We're going to gather data approximately 3 months, so July to September of 2025. Understanding how the risk assessment was used and its effectiveness in its first level of assessment, that we're doing work as a group with the goal of seeing how this shift impacts domestic violence cases as they move through the justice system and the court process. We're going to focus the pilot in the 4th precinct. During the month of July, we will train officers on how to use it, how to ask the questions, what interview questions we want asked. And we're going to do that based on the responses in our new assessment, guidance on how to conduct the, I'm sorry, I did that already. So over the 3-month timeline, members of the DV group, we will meet and we will monitor the cases. We're going to pick the cases and assess the completion and make sure that they're asking the questions how we want them to ask them. So we hope that there's going to be a positive shift with the rapport of the victims, the officers, resulting in better information gathering. So the more rapport they have, the better information we get. The overall number of police reports filed after a domestic call, victim feedback about experience with the officers, and victim engagement with officers, court personnel, and community supports. Simultaneously, officers are going to be asked to give feedback as well about their experience, how easy it is it effective, do you feel like you have better rapport with the victims as well. We want to see how the change impacts victim safety throughout the judicial process, so the overall total length of the pilot project is open-ended. If we're not getting enough feedback from start to finish of the project, we will extend the project if we need to. Lastly, during this trial period, the DV work group will be pulling several cases over 3 months to complete a more comprehensive risk assessment that will involve looking at the victim and offender domestic violence histories, risk assessment data, history of 911 calls, escalation of violence, and other factors to determine what type of response would be most effective to shift the trajectory of the case for high-risk cases.
So our goals are to, by the end of 2025, release an update to the original report that will include the progress of our pilot project wherever we are with it. It will include data from focus groups with victim survivors. So we want this to be victim-driven and make sure that it's victim-centered. So we'll make sure that we're talking to victims that have called 911 during the pilot project time period. It will include information about officer experiences. We will be talking with community and criminal justice providers to get their feedback about their experience and how they think it's shifted the process. We'll also be reviewing and doing that text analysis that DC Olson talked about. And then the very last thing DC Olson talked about where we're picking a couple cases and doing a much more thorough analysis, is an example of a domestic violence response team model, which is also another thing that we're trying to really look into to see whether that's something that we want to move to as a city, depending on how sustainable it is, how effective it is, and if it's a model that seems to work for us. Something else that's happened over the last 2 years, that there's some outcomes for things that we have just decided that we're going to implement without piloting. And so probation has decided that they're going to both get trained on risk assessment so that they can better understand how to utilize the different risk assessments that they get from different jurisdictions for the folks that they are supervising. They're also going to incorporate the risk assessments at different stages of their case process. So that's going to include pretrial bail evaluations, predispositional conditional release supervision, and post-adjudication supervision cases.
So something else, we kind of talked about how this is across everyone who has contact with victims. And so we, as advocacy, have found that we can do better too. And as part of that, we're going to be working on training advocates on how to understand the lethality factors and risk assessments so that they can better respond to the needs of their participants. This is going to help them more quickly identify cases where services are needed immediately. We're also going to be working on training them to understand various roles that the various roles of people within the criminal justice system that victims will come in contact with, and how those system players kind of interact with domestics. It's, as an advocate myself, at least a past advocate, it's really important to understand each system player's role so you can help the participant, in my case, victim, understand what's going to happen next, who's going to talk to them, why are they asking those questions, will this benefit me, will this not benefit me? So just helping advocates, especially new advocates, understand what the perspectives are of the criminal justice system so that we can assist and support victims better.
And the training to advocates on risk assessment will be done through Violence Free Minnesota, which is our state coalition. So it'll be offered to 92 domestic violence organizations across the state, not just in Minneapolis. The other thing we wanted to share is just learnings thus far. So we know that collaborations across organizations is really vital for us to be able to serve victims effectively. Something that we learned is that by having these collaborative conversations, we can learn more about our roles and why we have to make the decisions we have to make, what really drives the perspectives that we have, and what things we cannot do within our roles, and how that really impacts bias that we have within our field around different positions. And so having a collaborative response really has helped better understand how the system works as a whole so that we can effectively work with victim survivors. The second is the need for something like a divert team so that we have a way to structure highlighting and prioritizing high-risk cases in a way that's objective and includes participation and perspectives from community-based advocacy as well as system partners. And then the last is the need for ecosystem supports, which I feel like everybody agrees with and knows that at the end of the day, if we have all this information but we don't have the resources to survive or to support survivors, then we're just gathering the information for no reason, and it makes it much worse for the survivor, actually. Anything else you guys want to add? I think actually the one thing I didn't put on here is that this does just take time. And we're not just doing culture change within each agency, we're also doing culture change as a collective as we figure out how to do this work collaboratively. What you can expect from us as we move forward is a report at the end of 2025. We meet a minimum of 10 times a year. Sometimes it feels like we're meeting every week, which I know everybody loves me for that. We continue to examine the impact of the way that we work and how that impacts domestic violence and victims specifically. We are going to start working on those other gaps, so we might be working on multiple gaps simultaneously as we are piloting a project and starting to investigate the next gap, and continuing to increase coordination among our agencies. All right. Questions?
MPD is not struggling, they're failing. 2 years for a pilot as women are assaulted, abused, and killed? City council, you must intervene, get involved,
ask
and get
members of the
results,
audience,
or nothing will change.
We don't allow any public comment at this moment. Thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. We have a couple of members in queue, and for my colleagues, this is questions for our current presenters or the previous presenters as well. So I'll call on Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. First, I want to just say thank you to our community partners for coming and giving this presentation. I know Councilmember Chavez and I worked together to bring this forward. Honestly, after Allison Lushier's family came to City Hall repeatedly and asked us to not only be responsive to what has seemed to be a failure from our own police department, from the city leadership, in responding to what has been clearly intimate partner violence that led to her death, but also making sure that no other family is ever having to be put in that predicament again. And it's because of that, not only did we request this presentation where we learned from that process that there was a report done to actually analyze how our city was approaching domestic or intimate partner violence in the areas in which we were failing. We also brought forward the after-action review, where right now I'm more than happy to follow up with the community partners on the status of that our city auditor is going to be carrying out and has also approved. But I want to absolutely name Allison Lushier was the motivator of today's presentations, and continues to be a motivator of the work that I think this body is committed to make sure that all of our communities, and that's what was highlighted, the disproportionate reality that our Indigenous residents and women are facing intimate partner violence and often are not given the support that they need. So I just want to hold space for that. And also thank you to our partners who have shown what work has gone into motion to not just leave recommendations on the shelf, to garner dust and to highlight some of the efforts that's being moved forward. That said, I did have a couple questions, and I will name Chair Chowdhury. I see we actually have our OCS commissioner in audience, so I do want to flag that one of these questions likely will be routed to our own staff.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so that said, I did actually want to ask the questions around the decision-making behind pursuing a 3-month pilot, only because I know at the city level, every pilot from the BCR, Behavior Crisis Response, the safety ambassadors, those are allotted at minimum a year to assess effectiveness and data and all those things before recommendations for either pursuing for full adoption or not. So I know, MPD staff mentioned that there is openness to extend if needed, but just wanted to know, why are we starting just with a 3-month window?
So we wanted to start with 3 months just so that we would give ourselves a deadline to start looking at data and start analyzing it. And if looking at the data and getting feedback from victim survivors and getting feedback from officers shows that we are getting more information, more context around the violence that they're experiencing, because right now the risk assessment has 2 questions versus what is going to end up being approximately 12. So to us, having a shorter window around making that change, given that the impact can be pretty significant for victims, seemed like a better route for us to go. As far as the longer-term impact, we want to see what that looks like, not just with officers as a first point of response, but also what that looks like when it goes to the city attorney's office, when it goes to Hennepin County, and how it helps with making charges, how it helps with assessing for risk and assessing for how we might pool resources. So I would say the 3 months is just so that we can be responsive in how we as a committee are pushing ourselves forward, given that it has been 2 years. So it's more of that internal deadline. And given what we find, or if it feels like we need more time, then we want to have the flexibility of being open to pushing it out for it to be longer.
Thank you for that. And just for clarity, the work group is holding this pilot. And that's with the partner. Can you identify what agency or what partner of this work group will be the lead for this?
Yes, so the Domestic Abuse Project, right now, I would say is like the fiscal sponsor. And so we are the ones that try to fundraise in order to have a coordinator who facilitates the group. But otherwise, I would say we really make collaborative decisions as a committee. One of the other reasons that it took time is that the first 2 years of the report was really about data mining and trying to understand what the gaps were. But this phase of the project is really about making significant change. And so the people on the committee need to be people that are in leadership positions within these different agencies and have connection to or themselves are folks that can make decisions about procedure and documentation changes, as an example, so that the committee itself can be effective. So we have folks that are in leadership positions within MPD, within the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, or have connection to folks within those leadership positions, so that we as a collective can make these suggestions. They can go have conversations with whoever is part of their specific agency, and then we as a collective can say, this is the direction that we're gonna go, and move forward with that.
Okay. I think that is clarifying. Again, I know just typically with pilots, it's even when there's a Democratic or a coalition table around it, someone is bottom lining it. So just making very clear who's the bottom liner, especially because you're upholding, as you mentioned, with pilots, the data mining. I think the evaluation piece, what's the process for bringing forward or releasing findings from that pilot? Because, and how that relates to us accessing that information, because I'm more than happy to also work with you all again once you reach that 3-month window of September to come back and present findings, or when you have compiled your report from that. But I do know even on the city of Minneapolis side, we have specific departments, and that's why I asked you within MPD, like, are they working with the performance management innovation team? Like, we have different departments who are holding our pilot work, who come back and present their findings. So just making clear who those stakeholders are.
Yeah, as of this moment, this feels weird to say, but it is the Domestic Abuse Project that right now that is facilitating and driving that.
Okay.
So as far as like publishing the report, like who's the person to talk to get a copy of that, or where it's coming out of, it's us. But as far as decision-making and everything else goes, it's a collective.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this question would likely be related to Office of Community Safety. I don't think actually MPD you could speak to this, but I was actually excited to look or see on slide 9, and you spoke to this, that something that might come forward from this pilot is further exploration of this micro pilot domestic violence response team. And the reason why I got excited about that, because I also was like, this looks very familiar to something that this body actually funded back in 2023. We funded 3 FTEs towards a domestic violence navigation program here at the city, because we had long heard about the impacts of intimate partner violence. It is unclear now, 2 years later, what has happened with that funding. And where is it? Because you name in terms of how that relates to the city attorney. So I would like to know what's the status of that. And I don't think that's on the onus of the domestic abuse project to speak to that.
I can't speak to that. I will say that the divert team and its function is different from a navigator, but I can't speak to the navigator program, if that's what that is. Oh, okay.
Councilmember Wansley, I'm assuming that you're not talking about the navigator program, is that correct?
No, this was 3 FTEs that council funded to move, 1 program manager, 2 domestic violence navigators that were actually moved to neighborhood safety. And this was in 2023 to be implemented in the 2024 budget.
So the navigator program has since moved under MPD, and there are still domestic navigators that are in the precincts, and we still utilize them. Cece, she came with today. She is also part of this project and a part of the pilot, and she would be a part of that domestic violence, the divert team. So we still utilize them. We have them actually in the precincts, and we also have navigators embedded in investigations where the domestic unit is located. Just tell me briefly about what your role is. Sure. She's going to talk to you about her role.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Council members, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Cecilia Olson. Excuse me, I'm dealing with some allergies here, but so bear with me. But I am the domestic violence community navigator for the city of Minneapolis. I have been here with the city for just over 7 years, and I am out of the 4th precinct. I am housed out of the 4th precinct. Before the new navigators came in, I was covering pretty much all the domestic cases that came through the city. Now I'm predominantly focusing just on the 4th precinct now that we have 2 other navigators implemented into the precincts. We have one in the 5th precinct and one in the 3rd precinct, and then myself in the 4th precinct. What my work looks like is, again, more advocacy, where it's safety planning, resource referrals, follow-up with 911 callers who are calling for domestic-related situations. Safety planning would include providing resources to other agencies, writing protection orders, going to court with individuals, doing other resource referrals for housing, food, some basic needs for individuals in the community, and then also doing the community work. And focus groups like this one. I've been part of the original research that happened, gosh, how long, 5 years ago? Yeah. 5 years ago, I started with that research group and then have continued to be on that for the last 5 years, providing input from a police standpoint, victim standpoint, and from a service provider standpoint, and trying to really create change within the system. So again, that is a really brief overview of my role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then clarification, so we have you at the 4th precinct.
Correct, yes.
And then there's 2 other domestic violence navigators at the 3rd precinct?
There's one.
And split between 2.
So there's me at the 4th precinct, yep, and then there is one implemented in the 5th precinct and the 3rd precinct.
And these are domestic violence navigators?
Correct. Yep, they are just supposed to be following up on domestic-related cases.
Okay, so those are 2 of the 3. So, because I'm just looking back at the budget amendment, it acknowledged, I believe, your position that was still in existence, and then the other 2. So essentially, these are the positions they went and were embedded into 2 additional precincts. Do you also know if they work with the embedded social workers then? Because I can imagine there's probably some overlap there too. Yes, they do. Could you? Yeah.
They do.
Okay. I think this is, again, if there's ways, and we've been asking for data points around the embedded social workers, what their exhaustive list of work looks like, because we hear anecdotally they're doing great work, but this is something that I didn't even know was a resource in which they're working with our domestic violence navigators, or that we had navigators put in place in precincts even. So this is news today, and that's good to hear. But I would love to find ways for our residents to know that these are services that they can access. But those are the questions that I had, and also comments to share, and just to reiterate to the public around like commitment towards making sure that our Indigenous neighbors, Black residents, like whoever experiencing intimate partner violence, like that should not be happening in a situation where we're losing our community members because of negligence on our side of things. And this is why a lot of us supported that after action, because we want to have an actual independent analysis that identifies what existing barriers, still exist, because that's going to be looking at even an incident that's taken place since this report and since these measures have been implemented. And also to continue learning about some of the work that you all are doing. I absolutely want to have you all come back and talk about the pilot findings as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I will recognize Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank you all for these presentations today. I recognize that it was driven by one specific incident or a series of incidents that led to somebody's death, Allison Lucier. But I did want to just give an example of my own about working with domestic navigators and CC specifically. Last year, it was stark to me how many strangulation incidences our police show up to and get reported, and yet not a single one had been charged in however far my look back was. Not a single strangulation case had been charged. Now, that was really alarming to me. But instead of this committee, this committee got together, and instead of just trying to point fingers at why didn't you charge, we had this clearly in our report. I love how Ann participated in the strangulation training of new officers in MPD last year, and learned from CC and from others in MPD about how we're training our officers better to not just ask those kinds of questions, but also to collect better evidence so that we can get these cases charged before it happens again and again. We do know that, I'm sure CC knows the talking point, or Deputy Chief Olson and Ms. Keefe, all of you I'm sure know better than I do, but there are statistics that show that people who strangle an intimate partner so often leads to some kind of murder later on. And these cases are really hard, and sometimes they're very complex. There's a lot going on when officers arrive, even on gone on arrival cases. There's a lot of complexity as there are in people's relationships. But I really appreciate you all going into the details of this and figuring out how every single member of this committee, this work group, could do better. And part of it from the MPD side, I got to witness, and I just want to point out there have been a lot of improvements in MPD policy since 7 years ago. And one of them is really about how we ask about, collect evidence, and then submit charges for things like strangulation. And that is a testament to all of the great work that all of you and others do to bring light to this situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Palmisano.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Palmisano. I wanted to say thank you as well to everyone who presented on this. First, I want to say that Allison Lucier should be here. She should absolutely be here, and it's devastating that there were so many points where there could have been intervention that could have prevented the loss of her life. And I thank her family and community for being here. And it makes me reflect on the missing and murdered Indigenous relatives rally that we had this year in the city of Minneapolis, and how hundreds and hundreds of people in our city came out to stand with our Indigenous siblings. And it just showcases how much this resonates with community members and it impacts them. For me, certainly, I have had to support many people in my life through experiences with domestic violence. And it is angering and heartbreaking to see these gaps. And these are gaps for people who are advocating and are reaching out. And I just want to say that there are many people who are quietly suffering and not reaching out too. And that those aren't being reported. And so these are for the instances where there are reports and where there are interventions. And this body has done a number of things in the last year and a half around supporting efforts in addressing this type of violence against women and girls and our gender expansive community, from adding to our federal legislative agenda support for an office for missing and murdered Black women at the federal level, that after action review for Allison Lucier, And I really, really want to just offer up my partnership in working on this pilot and the number of other things that was in your initial presentation for actions that could be taken. Because when there are those 7 gaps that you listed or many more, those gaps are what people fall through and end up getting hurt or worse. And I really hope that we will be able to take the presentation that you gave us, specifically the first presentation, and have that as a way to kind of look at the after action review that we got and compare where those gaps lined up and where we failed Allison Lucier. One of the questions that I have for the risk assessment pilot is the flagging process. Is there going to be a type of tiering system in order to monitor and track different cases? Maybe there aren't going to be cases that immediately become like super, super high risk, but are trending towards there. How are you thinking about analyzing that?
Yeah, that's part of what a divert team would look at. So if, let's say that pilot goes well, and we're able to get the resources to do something like that in the future, then what that could look like is, like the way the model works is that somebody, an advocate or a person that's assigned to a specific role, at the beginning of every day would pull history for the victim and the offender for whether it's gone and arrival cases, if that's what we chose to focus on, or in custody cases, and put together an action, like do their own risk assessment and put together the domestic violence history of both parties, looking at all of the previous police reports that might be in the system. So even though it might be that the report today looks like it's a low-risk case, if you look at the collective history, what you might see is that there is a pattern of violence, or a pattern of violence that's showing escalation. So if the committee then meets and looks at that, and it's police officers, it's an attorney, it's an advocate, collectively looking at it from those different perspectives, they might decide that they're going to take that case and flag it as high risk, because we have a much more depthful perception of that victim's case, as well as that offender's history.
Yeah, thank you so much for walking me through that. What happens after it's flagged in this pilot? Like, let's say you come across that high-risk case and you're discussing it. What's the next steps in addressing it?
Yeah, I will say that is in process. The idea is that if we have, like, let's say we have 20 gone on arrival cases, and the resource is that we can't address all 20 of those cases, but we know that 3 of them we're flagging as high risk, then the resources will hopefully be pooled into those 3 high-risk cases so that we can go and find those 3 offenders that are gone on arrival, as an example.
That's helpful. My last question is, what are ways in which this body can help support this work? Are there specific things that are in the horizon that you need?
Do you want to? I will say funding is one. And I will also say, as an advocate who knows very little about a lot of the bureaucracy around things, but I don't feel like I might get in trouble for saying this out loud. But I know that there's a lot of red tape around how positions can get hired, and what that looks like as far as building out different teams. And I don't even know, maybe that's, yeah. I feel
that's helpful. Maybe we can have a discussion about it offline. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm going to ask and see if any of my colleagues have any other questions or comments. I'm not seeing any other further discussion. I will ask the clerk to receive and file that second presentation and the first presentation.
One thing you can do is open the working group to the public and put global rights for women that wrote the report that was specific to Minneapolis Police Department on the working group.
May I just say one quick thank you to you and
yes, you may.
We were invited to participate in the working group. We felt that our position was better as a public advocate and standing in solidarity with Allison Lucier. And I just want to say how much I appreciate your pointed questions, your leadership. 30 years ago, a report was written by the Battered Women's Justice Project about the police response to domestic violence in this community. It was almost identical to the one we released 2 years ago. So leadership on this huge public safety issue has been what's missing in Minneapolis. And you are providing it today. I appreciate it. I hope you will demand it of your other leaders in this, the mayor, the chief of police, anybody, the county attorney, the city attorney, please. This is a major, major public safety issue, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chaudhary.
Thank you to everyone.
Allison, we have to move before the report comes out, because every day is something.
Right now, we're not going to be able to do a public comment. Right now, we're not going to be able to do a public comment, but I hope we can talk after this meeting. Would be really happy to. Thank you, everyone who came to our meeting for this portion of it. I'll ask the clerks to receive and file that second presentation. And now, colleagues, we're going to try to run through the committee reports. And the first place we will start with is Administration, Enterprise, and Oversight with its chair, Chair Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. The Administration Enterprise Oversight Committee is bringing forward 18 items. The first is a gift acceptance from Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance for Megan Hoy to attend the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance annual meeting. 2 is a gift acceptance from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for Kevlin Alondes and a community partner to attend the Culture of Health Celebration and Meeting. 3 is a contract with Short Elliott Henderson, Inc. for engineering and design services for the Highway Safety Improvement Project at Whittier Neighborhood Intersections. Number 4 is a contract with Alliant Engineering, Inc. for engineering and design services for the Highway Safety Improvement Program project at Bloomington Avenue and Minnehaha Parkway. 5 is a contract amendment with Parker Analytics LLC for data analytics consulting services for sworn law enforcement recruitment and hiring. 6 is a contract amendment with Egan Company for street light installations. 7 is a contract amendment with Greaves Linhart Allen PLLP for workers' compensation legal services. 8 is a contract amendment with Weiser Concrete Products, Inc. for reinforced maintenance holds covers. 9 is a contract amendment with Good Works Consulting LLC for learning and organization development services. 10 is a contract amendment with Restoration and Construction Services LLC for the Hilton Ramp Waterproofing Project. 11 is accepting bids for the 3 separate companies for public impound towing services around the city. 12 is a bid for Fridley Roof and Masonry Repair Phase 1. 13 is a bid for Washburn Water Tower Restoration. 14 is a legal settlement worker compensation claim of Anthony Kuzek. 15, legal settlement worker compensation claim of Vicky Karnick. 16, a legal settlement of the claim of J. Tao and B. Vang. 17 is a legal settlement Tyler v. Hennepin County. And then 18 is a legal settlement Church of the Holy Cross v. City of Minneapolis. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we will go to budget, which will be reported by Council President Payne.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. The Budget Committee is bringing forward 3 items. City Council's 2026 budget priorities for the Mayor's 2026 recommended supplemental budget. Item 2 is employee reallocations to the Office of City Auditor. And item 3 is the 2025 Local Board of Appeal and Equalization Report. And I will stand for questions.
Great. Next, we will go to Business, Housing, and Zoning, presented by its Vice Chair, Councilmember Allison.
Thank you. Biz is going to be bringing forward 18 items. It's the usual stuff. and I'll answer any questions. And all 18 items will be read by Councilmember.
Are you sure you don't want
Jamal
to just
Osman.
read it? Just read it.
I think we're good.
Just read the items.
We'll be good to go. It'll get read. It's posted and it'll get read on Thursday. But I will answer any questions
Do
though.
you see how Councilmember Wansley read all of her AO items?
I know. Commendable.
This is senioritis. Okay, we'll give you one pass. All right, we'll go to climate and infrastructure. Cashman, you will
Clearly,
not be able
someone's
to
on
do
their
that.
senior slide. I'm still a freshman, so I'm going to be an overachiever. So the Climate and Infrastructure Committee is bringing 20 items forward. Number 1, passage
And
of
we
an
need
honorary
quorum, please
resolution declaring the week of May 18th as National Public Works Week. Item 2, project approval and adopting special assessments for the Kenwood Rehabilitation Project. 3, amending the 2022 street lighting plan map to reclassify 9 street segments as pedestrian street lighting corridors. 4, authorizing the submittal of a grant application, 2 grant applications for the 2025 Minnesota Department of Transportation Metro Local Partnership Program. Item 5, authorizing a pipeline license agreement with BNSF to install a storm sewer pipeline beneath the railroad tracks. 6, approving a large block event permit for Edina Art Fair. The next items are all large block event permits for Noons on Nicollet, Taste of Minnesota, Welcome Downtown Core Week. And then item 10, receiving and filing Q1 2025 traffic zones, restrictions and controls report. Item 11, updating parking and mobility services fee and rate schedule for the impound lot. 12, board appointments to the Uptown Special Service District Advisory Board. 13, approving appointments to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. 14, approving appointments to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. 15 is authorizing a biennial routine maintenance agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. 16, designating the 10th Avenue Bridge as the Minnesota Senate Majority Leader Carrie Dietzig Memorial Bridge. 17, authorizing a lease amendment with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for commercial land under the I-394 bridge. 18, another large block event permit for Warehouse District Live. 19 is a sound permit for Warehouse District Live, and 20 is directing staff to produce an analysis of state, county, and municipal authority over vehicle noise pollution. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. We have just one more left, which is Public Health and Safety Committee, which will be presented by its Vice Chair, Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chowdhury. The first is honorary resolution for Mental Health Awareness Month. By the way, there's only 5 items. Number 2 is a staff direction to produce a national landscape analysis of municipal standalone public restroom programs. 3 is approving appointments to the Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council. 4 is authorizing an increase to a contract with Hennepin County for Sexual Assault Initiative KIT grant program. And 5 is authorizing an extension of a grant contract with the Department of Justice for recruiting Minneapolis Police Department officers. That, stand for any questions.
Okay. With that, we've concluded all business to come before the committee today. Hearing no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.